everyone, I'm Bernadette from the Missionaries of God's Love Sisters, and I'm just going to be speaking with you for the next few minutes about commitment to Jesus. Okay, so that might be something that you've looked at before, or it might be something completely new to you, but it's something I'm really passionate about speaking about, so I'm really excited to take you through that over the next little while. First of all, just a few quick things about me. So I grew up in Adelaide, down in South Australia. I'm currently in Darwin, in beautiful Northern Territory. And like I said, I'm a sister with the Missionaries of God's Love, and I have been for the last 6 or so years. I grew up in a Catholic family and went to Catholic schools and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I never imagined that I'd be a sister, but that's all part of the journey that God's taken me on. I guess what I really wanted to share with you today was a bit of an analogy from a song. It's actually from the movie The Greatest Showman. And for me, this analogy really sums up the journey of faith, and particularly saying yes to Jesus. It's basically about the main character's wife is singing a song about living life with him. And he's an adventurous man, he's an exciting man, he's an impulsive man, but she likens it to walking a tightrope. And so the song's called Tightrope, and it's all about how life with him is a complete adventure, but she also requires lots of trust from her, because the line in the song goes, never knowing if you'll catch me if I should fall. And basically it's imagining, you can imagine, can't you, the tightrope walker walking on the tightrope, and if they fall, their partner or the net beneath them needs to be there to catch them. And so she's likening this crazy adventurous life that her and her circus owning husband live to an incredible adventure, but also she talks about the risk of that as well. And I reckon it's a great analogy, because if you imagine, like, say, a tightrope walker or a trapeze artist, they work in pairs, and you know, they throw each other in the air and do all these amazing tricks, and it looks fantastic, and I can imagine it's a real thrill as well for them to do that. But it's also a risk, you know, and you can imagine, I don't know if you've tried tightrope walking, but you know, there would be that moment when your foot moves from the really solid earth beneath you onto the tightrope and onto the, you know, it's probably not that sturdy, and you know, can really question, you know, what am I doing? Or you can feel a bit vulnerable and feel a bit risky up there. So I reckon that's a great analogy for the life of faith. So I've been on my journey of faith for ages now. Like I said, I was born into a Catholic family, and I've had a few twists and turns kind of since then. But I guess overall, I reckon that's a great analogy, because God has led me on an incredible adventure with twists and turns that I never would have expected. And ultimately, it's been a really exhilarating ride. And that's a little line from the song as well. She says, it's all an adventure that comes with a breathtaking view, walking the tightrope with you. And I reckon that's a great summary if I was ever you know, encouraging someone just to take a leap of faith and to say yes to Jesus. I would liken it to a bit of an adventure. So for me, how that adventure kind of unfolded was, like I said before, I'd always grown up in a Catholic family and going to Catholic schools. But when I was about 21, I had the chance to go to a World Youth Day. For me, that was the first time I really had the opportunity to say yes to Jesus. And the way that that came about was that I was actually at a bit of a crossroads in my life, and it wasn't a given that I would choose the life of faith and that I'd say yes to Jesus in that way. You know, like I said, I'd come from a Catholic family, and so you might think, oh well, of course you're going to grow up and be Catholic, but I guess my experience, and yours too, may be that that's not always the case, that each and every one of us needs to decide whether we're going to make that step of faith, whether we're going to say yes, or whether we're not. And so for me, World Youth Day, when I was 21, was that decision. And I guess why is because I just finished uni, I was in a relationship, and I was at a bit of a crossroads in my life in knowing what direction I was going to take for my career and for my life. And I was having a really good time at World Youth Day, but I was also hearing stuff that was really challenging me in my faith as well, and I wasn't very used to that. And so I took some of those questions I had to one of the priests on our pilgrimage, and he was really great. He sat down with some of my friends and I and just talked through all the questions that we were giving him. And I actually didn't like a lot of his answers. I found it really challenging, because he was telling me that when you live the life of faith, sometimes you have to give things up. You know, in putting God first, in making Jesus your number one, there's certain things that, that you have to say no to. And in the life of faith, it's not an easy life to live all the time. And so I was feeling quite challenged by what he was saying on one particular night of our pilgrimage at World Youth Day. But the next day, I found myself at Mass, and I found myself really touched by the song Open My Eyes, Lord. And the lyric says, "Open my eyes, Lord, help me to see your face. Open my ears, Lord, help me to hear your voice. Open my heart, Lord, help me to love like you." And I just felt, for the first time really in my life, I just felt like God was speaking that message straight to me. And I guess what I felt was really loved, and like that God really wanted the best, absolute best for my life. And I'd never really considered that that would be the case before, that God would want the absolute best for my life, and that He loved me with incredible love that meant that He wanted me to live the best life that I could. And so I felt like that was a bit of a challenge too, because I knew that that would require some sacrifices from me, that might even require some changes in my life too. But I guess when I said, "Yeah, God, I actually want you to be first," I made some changes in my life, like things like I actually ended the relationship I was in at the time, and I entered a community that was for other young adults. I wanted to live with other young Catholics who were living their faith. And I also started studying theology as well, because I wanted more answers to all those questions that I had. And what happened after that was that life became really exciting and adventurous. And it was hard, to give up certain things, and it still is in the life of faith. There's things I have to say no to, but the yes is a bigger and more exciting yes. And so some of the things that have happened since that time is that I felt this incredible passion to share my faith with other young people. And so I had some incredible opportunities to do that. One of them was travelling around Australia before World Youth Day 2008 in Sydney, encouraging young people to come to World Youth Day, not to watch it on TV, but to be there in the flesh as Australia got to host World Youth Day. And another experience I had was working at a school as well as a youth minister for about 3-4 years. And also, of course, being a missionary of God's Love Sister, that's what we do with our whole life, is just tell other people, tell young people in particular, that God really loves them and that He wants them to have an incredible life. And while it's not always easy, while we've often got a cross that we need to carry, that God wants to lead us on a really exciting adventure. So I guess my encouragement for you is to really think about what saying yes to God or what committing to Jesus would mean in your life. And it might be the first time that you've ever had to think about that. Is Jesus my number one? Is God my number one? Is faith something that has a supreme importance in my life? And maybe are there changes I have to make that happen? Or you could be someone who's been on the journey a long, long time, and you would know as well as I do that it means recommitting each and every day, and we might reach hard things in life, we might reach a bit of a crossroads, and there's a call for us to really recommit to God and to say, "Yeah, I still want you to be my number one, and I'm saying yes to you, God, with all that I've got and with everything I am, and I want you to have complete control." And to do this comes from the fact that God is so trustworthy. If you were going to choose someone to guide you onto a tightrope, if you were going to choose a trapeze partner, I don't reckon I could pick someone else who's as trustworthy as our God. He's incredible in making the whole universe and holding us. We know He holds us in the palm of His hand. He wants the best for us. So if it's hard to make that step of faith, look at the character of our God and know that He's someone totally trustworthy. He's someone that won't let us fall ultimately. We'll go through hard times, sure, but He'll be with us all of the time. And I guess for me, that's what gives me encouragement to keep saying yes and keep committing to Jesus.